DNVR here with current Eagles associate head coach, but also member of Avs 1.0 and FBI agent, Dan Hinote. Dan, thank you for coming on. How is it getting back in, getting on the coaching side with the Eagles?
It's been phenomenal, and I've said this a million times now, but when you're in a good organization and you leave the organization and you come back, and most of the people that were there when you were there are still working with the organization, tells you plenty about the type of people and the success the organization has had, because people stay around and also are kept because they've had success and because they've won. And, that's the thing about winning in the NHL is once you've won, you know what it takes, because it's a huge mountain. And you don't want to let the people that have been to the top of the mountain, you don't want to let those people go. They're very valuable. And the Avs, with everybody still being in the family, it makes perfect sense. And it makes sense why they won recently.
Absolutely, and that's why we always talk about the similarities. I'm a bit older than you, and we had Willsie, so you guys are just a little bit behind me. But we talk about my dad all the time here. It's awesome. It's all good to talk about. And obviously, you were one of his favorites. That's fine. He's not here to say, don't say that anymore. We can say that, right?
Yeah,
exactly. But at the end of the day, I want you to talk about a little bit what Denver's meant to you, because obviously it's kind of home in a sense, right? Because
100%.
you know what I mean? You're so happy to be back. Could have stayed in the NHL. Now you're going to the American League. And people are like, what is that? Denver, Colorado, Fort Collins. It's all the same. It's home for you, correct?
That's it. It's it. And, you come to these things and, I was at the Ball Arena the other day. And
careful, kids. It changed
We still
names.
say Pepsi Center. It happens.
I say it all the time. I know. I was just about to. I was like, oh, wait, that's not it. But the bussy that used to pick us up from the airport was still there.
Yes.
And I sat outside and we talked for like a half an hour just about the old days. And that the same thing happens in Loveland. The same thing happens in Fort Collins. The same thing happens here. Yeah. You got Mike Ricci telling, our players that he won a beauty contest over me back in the day, which he did, and it pains me to say it, but he did, and he's a beautiful human. But it's just not inside. Yeah. But it's just one of those things where Denver, when you play for the Avs, it becomes part of your soul, because the people are so great, right? Like the Avs have been good to the community, but the community's been great to the Avs as well. So you feel like everyone's pulling on the rope, and when you win, it's kind of like trauma bonding. It's like we all won together, because you win as a city. That's the beauty of hockey, is you can't do it on your own. It's not an individual sport, so you have to have everybody pulling on the rope. And your dad, who I reference all the time, because once you get into coaching and you start to understand business, you realize that you can't win if the top's no good. But if the top is phenomenal, then they hire phenomenal and so on, and it rolls downhill, and that's how you win. And so he's like that top of the pyramid for me when I think about business, or I think about coaching, or I think about like, what organization do I want to work for? Well, I want to work for an organization where the top is solid and fantastic, like it was when I played. And that's why the decision to come here was so easy, because you got Joe and C-Mac. And
I was going to say, the guy at the top now is pretty good on the ice with you, too.
100%. And so, Denver represents all of that, for me. And coming home, and literally it feels like coming home, because you still know all the people that are walking around. And when you've had success, people stay in the game. When you look at our teammates, a lot of them are still in the game. A bunch of them are GMs now.
We had Blakey yesterday. That's what we were talking about. Like, what is wrong with that?
I know.
It's crazy. It's not wrong. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. You got Drew, you got Joe, you got Blakey. Like,
you boys, got Pete Jones. I'm just saying. You missed Jones. Did you miss?
No,
Jonesy?
I had Jonesy. You had
Jonesy. Yeah.
Very beginning of my, and he was my roommate once.
Patty.
I know Patty's in the game. That's what guys stay in the game. Readers on TV.
Reach.
Yeah. Oh God. Reach couldn't leave the game if he tried with that face, but that's Denver to me.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask. I ask everyone from the Avs 1.0 era, especially you guys still in and around the game. You get to coach these AHL players now. How have you seen the game evolve over the 20-plus years you've been doing this?
Well, after the lockout, it changed drastically. Yeah. Some for the good and some for the worse. I think we lost a ton of leadership after that lockout. I think these young players are a little lost in that regard because they don't have the 2 or 3 guys that take you by the ear and tell you, hey, you got to tip the trainers X, and you need to pick up your stuff, and you're going to be the last on the ice, and now it falls on the coaches.
Yeah.
And that doesn't hear the same way. I could say it's on blue in the face, but coming from Eric as
Not
a player
on the same level,
exactly, like it's like, I'll do anything he tells me to do, and 90% of what the coach tells me to do. So, but then you hand that down. So then I go to St. Louis, and I'm a veteran now, and I remember how the veterans treated me and all the effort they gave me, and then so I felt that I should do the same so that's Oshie and Perron and all these young guys. Yep. And then now they do it, right? Like that's how it gets handed down. And after the lockout, you lost a lot of those really good leaders. True. And so the game got faster and it got more skilled and that's great for TV. But you lost a little bit of the soul that was in the locker room. I mean, it's still there. It's just harder to find because these, you get some throwbacks now and again, like an Oshie and Boone Jenner and guys like that. But they're few and far between compared to the new protein shake early sleepers. And
here's what I want to add. Like, I am biased because we are older. We're getting older. Yep. I mean, they make fun of me all the time because I have cable. So it's like, whatever. They're like, they don't even know what cable is. Yeah. So it's all good. But having you back, because this is an Avalanche, podcast and community, and we do cover the team, but we cheer for the team. You know what I mean? And me, it's family, as you know. You know what I mean? And that's all. That doesn't leave you. Nope. You said it didn't leave you. It doesn't leave me. It doesn't leave like hardcore fans like Tiff and Rudo and all our crew and all our members. Yeah. But I love the fact that you're there because for me, higher end guys will find a way because they have the higher end skills. But to have a guy like you I'm using names, okay, and Ivan, whatever we say the name. For me, it's so important because I remember I was telling Willsie earlier. I remember you when you were there and your first couple camps, and who is that freaking pain in my butt? You know what I mean? Like, who is that guy? Who is that? You know what I mean? And then you came in not as a first round pick, because I explained to everybody about the Silver Spooners, and in a good way. It's not in insulting terms. And I'm like, I love the fact that what you did, you can translate that to those kids. And I think that's going to be a big thing, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're going to bring to X's and O's. I know you got that. Yep. But for me, it's the heart. You know what I mean? And 2001, Avalanche, second cup.
Yep.
Faux goes down, People are like, oh, my God, they still won. Yeah, because there was guys like yourself that stepped up. You know what I mean? Yep. And for me, it's important to – you lost some leadership, like you said, as a league, we did, but you're still around now to instill that into those young Avalanche kids that are up the street in Loveland, and I think that's important. Yeah,
it is. And that's the thing is my route was a different route, and these kids, and then if you're in the minors, your route's different, like you said, the Silver Spooners will get there right away.
Daddy was a Silver Spoon, so there you go. Daddy, sorry.
Yeah, but those, and they earned that right? Like, it didn't happen on accident, so... But when you take a different route, my first year in the minors was with Bob Hartley, and I took a couple minors. He sent me back to junior, so I had to do an overage year, and I can't repeat the meeting, where he sent me down.
Well, that's Bob. We have Bob all the time.
Oh yeah, and I love Bob.
Yeah.
And he's the whole reason I played in the NHL. But it was a different route, is my point. So. And then I was a little college, a little junior, minors. I played in Sweden. So I can reach them in a bunch of different ways. And trying to explain to them, you might have been on the power play in the minors, but, but once you get to the show, you might be called on to play 4 minutes and dump the puck in, right? And maybe draw a penalty. And that's what these young players, like, Olofsson, for instance, he might have to do that, right?
We say it all the time.
And he has to be okay doing that. And some guys aren't, and those guys will never make it. And so in trying to instill in them the importance that 4 minutes has, right? And that penalty kill or those extra shifts that allow McKinnon and Rantanen to rest up and it doesn't cost the coach or the team anything, that goes a long way over the course of 82 games and then in, 7-game series.
Eric's been telling me that for months. We've had 5 people here tell us that. I think Eric might be right. I'm starting to think he might have gotten this one right.
But it's funny because again, this is not rehearsed.
Say that's what I'm saying.
We don't want to repeat my meeting with Bob.
Right.
I just said it earlier. I'm giving my age again. Not hard to find out, but I'm a bit ahead of him.
You had the same conversation with Crow.
Conversation with Crow. We had Crow the other day, and he was saying it too.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation. And then you accept it.
Yep.
or you don't.
That's it.
And if you don't, it's tough to make.
Yeah, no, you don't make it.
Yeah, okay. I didn't want to use I'm just trying to be polite here. I'm glad you said that. Because I say it all the time. You won't survive. There's no way. I'm glad you said that. It was not rehearsed. I mean, this is awesome. I love that point because we bring that point home all the time.
Yes, and that's the key. That's what the young kids have to realize, and that's what, having gone through the way we went through, that's what you can teach them.
The Avs have embraced a bunch of kids that are kind of following those different paths that you're going to have this year, guys like Jason Poliner and Andre Pavel. Is there a little bit of a connection there? Is it easier to be a coach for those guys that have maybe gone a little bit of the alternate path like you have?
Well, they're easier because their character got built up a little bit. When you go through adversity, that's what happens on the other end is you get a little bit wiser and stronger, and you get some calluses built up emotionally, physically, and then those guys have an aura, right? Like as soon as I jump on the ice and I bump into Pavel, and he's a brick, but he has the aura of a guy that's kind of struggled and been there and done that, and
knows
same
how to
with
work
Paulie.
for it a little bit.
Yeah, right. And it's like it's not the first round pick's fault that they haven't done that yet. But you can tell that they're lacking in that area. Yep. So you have to provide that for them. You have to put them in situations where their character can grow. Yep. And that's, to me, what the minors is good for, because that's nonstop, right? The other day we're in a Southwest flight, and the flight got delayed an hour, and it's hot in the plane. And my thought was, this is great for these kids. It's terrible for me. I'm sitting with C-Mac and K-Mac, and I'm in the middle seat. So it wasn't great. But I was thinking about those kids, and I was like, this is good for them. Because they need, and then such a small, stupid thing. Yeah. But it works on your patience. It works on your perspective. Eventually, hopefully, they're flying private and, with the team and blah, blah, blah. And they'll remember how it was, and they'll be grateful. Because if you can get them to be grateful, then you can get them to do anything.
I say it all the time. Everybody should spend some time in the American League. It's not an insult. It is great.
It is great.
Even you, Daddy. Casey's watching. But that's awesome. I mean, I don't know if you had anything else.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, you know what? Great to have you. Great to have you back in town. I know the fans of Denver are excited. My mom's excited. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
It's all good.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me on, too.
It's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll have a couple conversations with you in Loveland this year, too.
Please.
So it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. I can't wait.
We're good.
DNVR here with Director of Player Development for the Colorado Avalanche, Brian Willsie. Wills, thanks for coming on in our little studio here at the Toyota Center. It's been a fun weekend so far. Busy for you, I'm sure. How are things shaping up with the Avs here?
Awesome weekend. These tournaments are always fun. You get a lot of hockey people together, former teammates, staff you've spent time with in your playing days. But then to watch the kids and the prospects, not only from our team but other teams, it's always a great event, and Ellio's done a great job at this place.
Watch him talk to at least 300 people here probably at this point.
Yeah, you can't walk through the arena with him. You get stopped all the time. I know. You're 20 feet ahead all the time.
Not me, everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is the same way.
Yeah,
if you've been around, then, but I'm going to keep going on the prospects because I want to switch it on them after. You know what I'm going to say.
I know. The one everybody's got to ask about, Cal Ritchie. I talked to you earlier in the summer about him and his next steps. Today, is he closer to the NHL than he was a couple months ago?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. With kids like that, the steps that they take, those are the fun ones to watch, especially in development. And Cal was different with the surgery in May, drafting him in late June. We drafted a player that was rehabbing, so missing that summer that's a big deal for young players. That's a lot of development time, and the dedication he had coming back from that, the way he returned to play in Oshawa in November, the last 2/3 of the season, the playoff, all that is just a credit to him, and that's his personality and work ethic, and that's the kid we knew we were getting. His team went so far in the OHL that we didn't get a chance to get him to Loveland. He would have came out there at the end of the season, but he's in a great spot in Oshawa to develop. It's actually just down the road from where I live in Guelph, but finishing the season there, we get him in for development camp, and then just this summer has been a massive step to your first point that he's taking, and it's exciting to see the results on the ice now, and when you think about it, really is just the first couple steps, because there's a lot more steps to be taken, but he understands that.
He seems like a player that can take those steps pretty quick. I'll put it to you.
Yeah. Everybody's got a different pace, and we realize every development path is different for everybody. college to junior, kid to kid, position wise, but he's got a good head and his shoulders and a driven athlete.
At an event like this, Eric and I talk on our show all the time. You don't really look at the points too much. At the team atmosphere is pretty shinny hockey. These guys have played together for 3 days now, essentially. How much of that is looking at individual skill levels, or how much of these events is more about the other details for players?
Yeah, I, as a staff and our American League staff do a great job with them. You want to put the kids in the best position to succeed and to be at their best. And, when Kyle has the puck on his stick, that's when he's at his best. So, okay, you're going to put him on the power play coming downhill because that's what he does well. And you saw it picking up a couple points doing that. So, you play him 2 games out of 3 in the tournament. I think, other teams, San Jose would have whatever with Celebrini. Yeah, you come in with a plan. What are we going to do to put him in a good position to succeed here, but also to look good Thursday on the ice at main camp, and that's what all the staff is thinking here from every team. So you get them a taste, you get it up to the physicality, the high pace, because I think each period, the 6 periods we played, from period 1 being really scrambly and better at second and third, and then yesterday I thought we really worked. You just really are building on it for them to be ready on Thursday when they hit the ice with the big guys.
There you go.
I always say this. I always use the term silver spoon. You and I know. I mean, and I'm trying to teach that to the chat. Like, it's a complimentary term. It's not a bad thing. And we all know, for all the reasons, they're going to get a different type of opportunity. So when I look at this camp, Richie, you just asked about him. Perfect. Put him in that category.
Yep.
Then let's talk about Sean Barons for a second, which is, okay, high pick, older.
Yeah.
Never been here, first time. Yes, been at development camps, learned all that stuff. As the experience of national championships. And then, but it's still his first weekend. Talk to us a little bit about how he's adapted to that type of test that he's got to do.
Yeah, Sean, it is different for those college guys. They come out, the development camp is not a high intensity. It's competitive, but it's more teaching and learning. So they're getting a familiarity with us and the way we do things, but for those guys to come in here, it's they're a little nervous, but it helps when they're older. Sean's best attribute is he's smart, he's a gamer. High pressure situations bring the best out of him. So he's shown that here, where it's like he doesn't show his nerves. And he's being a 18-year-old freshman, some of the college guys we get are 23, 24. He's a younger college guy, so his adjustment is. He's not going to go coast to coast and score 3 goals a game, but just the way, he played last year with Eve, and just the way he gets around the ice, the way he thinks. Now coming into this pro hockey, he got a small taste with the Eagles last year, would definitely help them. Like, that's so valuable, that month he had up with Colorado playing pro hockey. You're playing against 26, 27-year-old men. Getting that experience, he'll draw on that to come into here. And then carry that into next week. He's not the biggest guy, so he really uses his brain well, his competitiveness. And then, with the Eagles this year, it's there's so many more details for him to learn defensively. You can get away with it in college and junior because he's so smart, but then he'll just learn the little idiosyncrasies to this side or this side, the lane management, whatever it may be, and that's just going to help him.
And then just to finish what I was saying, then you got the guys that used this weekend as a springboard. Ivan.
Yeah.
Right? Last year Alan Walsh, friend of our show, and was on with us yesterday, and it's the perfect example of a kid like that, and not to spend too much time with it. And then you got the other category, which is your draft picks that are just here for the first time, and probably going back next week to their junior team. So I just wanted to make sure, again, I go back to that term silver spoon, because I don't want to get crap that I'm downplaying and I'm insulting. It's not. It's just we all know that it's in those categories.
Yeah. Well, I think we should talk about Ivan because we had to get creative. We didn't have 7 draft picks every year. So between college free agents, we got into the junior free agent with Ivan. Yep. American League deal, earned an NHL deal, and then we've noticed him this weekend. You guys have noticed him. So that he just plays that right style of a bottom 6 that we like. So good on him for taking that step.
Is that a big part of this weekend in general? You talked about someone like Cal Ritchie getting ready for main training camp. How much of the Avalanche style of hockey gets infused into this with the high octane play and D-men jumping up into the play, things like that.
Yeah, I think we want to teach that in development camp. We want to teach that here. You guys watch some of our Eagles games. That's the way they play there. Aaron Sneekloff, we bring in Danny Hinote on the bench, Tim Branham, like that's what they preach. The Eagles play that way. We push it on all our players when they get back to their junior team or college team when they're in development camp. So that's our style. And when we talk about development, you spend time with Jared Bednar, says that what are the attributes and habits you want in a player, and at 18 we start. So then when they eventually get to him, he looks down on the bench in front of him, and they have those habits in him. So those are the players we like. Those are the players we're trying to keep pushing up.
A lot better than back in Eric's day. I'm sure these tournaments would be tough if everyone was playing a 1-3-1, all right?
Yeah. So different back then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but everybody adapts. It's those days are long gone, But this is what I'm going to flip the script on you, and I'm going to go like this. There's a reason why 1996. So that's what 28 years later.
Is it that long?
Is it 24 plus?
Yeah.
28 years.
Yeah.
24 plus 4. Yeah. 28 years later, you're here representing a logo that drafted you. I'm going to give you flowers and want the chat to understand why you are part of development. So I remember my first camp as an Avalanche. I've been in the league for a little bit. That was your draft year. You were there. And I've never said this to you, but I'll say it to you now. Those kids are here to make an impression. You made an impression. That's why I said, don't blush. I'll give you flowers. You made an impression because I remember, I want to say you were on my team. Remember there's like 4 teams per, whatever.
Yeah,
I remember in the locker room, Willsie, and then, and I remember guys like on the team saying, hey, what a nice kid that kid is. Because guys don't know who the draft picks are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you might know the first round pick and the Silver Spooners, right?
Yep.
But you don't know the later. And there's no offense by saying we were later round picks, but that's
Speak
all right.
for yourself, all
All
right?
right.
Yeah. I follow them all. All right?
Yeah.
Rudo just missed the cut, but that's fine. But I remember guys talking like, "Hey, what a nice kid that is. What a nice." And guys talk.
Yeah.
Guys talk, and it's important. So check mark, you did that. You come back the next year, now it's not you're more familiar. So now you can put yourself in those shoes now of a second-year guy. You know what I mean? Pick whoever you want from, again, slim pickings. We all know because the draft picks is not that heavy lately. So check mark, right?
Yep.
Now come in and go. I don't remember if you went to Hershey at the end of the year, one of those junior seasons or
when they won the Calder Cup.
You were there with Bob.
Black Ace, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Again, Goo coming back all the time. And again, Goo, one of our buddies, Michelle Goulet saying, oh, I like that Willsie. That Willsie's a good kid. You're looked at every second of the day, whether you're on the ice, whether you're in the locker room, whether you're in the hotel lobby, check mark for you, right? Now, you're not a Silver Spooner. You're a later, round pick and with skill, with everything. What do? You go, you put your head down, you don't go. And the next thing you know, you found yourself in the lineup. My dad always liked you. Stole your money at the golf course all the time. You've said that story before. It's all good. But then you find a way to play, and then you find a way to play in the NHL. Then, okay, it doesn't work anymore. You find in this building, right? Los Angeles Kings. So very relatable for kids. You know what I mean?
That's a good word.
Right?
Yeah.
It's very relatable for kids. I always say sometimes those higher-end players, they don't relate to, the other guys that we had to fight. No offense. Those guys are so much better than all of us. But,
yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I said you passed all those tests, and that's why I love the fact that a guy like you is in development because those kids can look at a person like you, and it's so valuable, you know what I mean, to have those resources. And that's why I said I just – didn't want to talk about the prospects here for 2 seconds. Rudo does that. Rudo did it with you. You've been awesome to Rudo. And, I just wanted to tell you that it's fun because I know personally what you went through, and I know that you can relate to every guy that's here in a certain way. And I just want to tell you that it's awesome to see the great work you're doing with the Avalanche.
Well, I appreciate it, but I think the relatable word is huge. Yep. We know, I was a scorer in junior, but then when I get to the American League, I'm like, oh my God, it's hard to score here. So when I started in Hershey my first year, 20 years old, I didn't score my first 19 games. And I just scored 45 in the OHL year before. Mike Foligno was our coach, and he looked at me one day. He's like, "Are you ever going to score in this league?" And he's just like, "I'm like, I don't know if I am." And but he took me aside. Jay Willsie assistant. You got to find other ways to stay in the lineup. You be the best penalty killer you can. You got to finish checks, whatever you can do. So it was role acceptance, and eventually I turned in and could score in the American League. But then when I got to the NHL, there was
there
were some pretty good players in our power play that I wasn't.
There's
a couple guys there. So yeah.
Second.
So whatever you do, you're blocking shots and hitting, whatever you got to do to stay in the lineup. And now I'm passing that on. You know, the goals will eventually come.
Yep.
And they did later on, but not at the extent at the lower levels. But I say that to kids now. You got to find a way and roll acceptance and change your game and
but look at the terms he's using. I'm not making fun of him. Role acceptance. But that's what that is. This game is simple. You just can't overcomplicate it. And the ones that figure it out that it's simple are the ones that go through.
Yeah.
Eric, you always talk about players their entire lives are goal scorers in all their leagues, right? And then you get to the NHL and you got to realize I might not be a goal scorer in this league. So.
Yeah.
Who was with Mike there? You said assistant.
Jay Wells.
Oh,
who played here.
That's right. Jay Wells was there. Yes.
They were.
That. Yeah.
They were so good for us, that whole group of Danny Hinote, Brett Larson, that just they taught us to work. Rick Barry. They just taught us to work. Yeah. Like, we competed all the time and really showed, I'm working hard. And it's like, well, are you really working hard? And that still is in this job now. And they taught us that.
I got one last question for you here, going back to the prospects a little bit. You talked a lot about Cal Ritchie and him putting on the weight this summer and how he needed to bulk up a little bit. Do you see a difference between junior players like Ritchie and the NCAA league that 5 days a week these kids are in the gym and then they play on weekends? Do the NCAA players tend to come in a little bit bigger?
I would say, to answer that, I because we get the NCAA players when they're older.
Sure, that definitely a factor too.
That's the big thing. Anymore, a lot of the NCAAs are pushing to 19-year-old freshmen, 20-year-old freshmen. So we're not getting them in pro until 22, 23.
Yeah.
My opinion, you're not really at your body maturity until 23. Cal Ritchie's not going to be a man probably until he's 22, 23.
Yep.
So as much as you're putting on weight, you're getting stronger. That core strength, that strength over puck, is still a few years away. But to answer your question, the scheduling is different. We enjoy Cal plays 2-3 times a week. He plays over 20 minutes in Oshawa.
Yep.
He's in 7-game series against London. They didn't play against London 7 games, but they're in 7-game series in playoffs and long playoffs. I think that's good for them development-wise. So both paths are great. Both paths are different, but and we're heavily involved. I'm involved in his workout program in Oshawa. Hey, you played Sunday, you don't play till Friday. Let's get a couple good workouts in here. Things like that, just to speed that along.
Cal Ritchie owes you 17 pounds. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'll give him some. I'll give him some.
Free.
I got a few
I'll
extra
give him
too.
some.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs those kind of pounds.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Corner weight.
I got excited there. I was like, where can I drop pounds?
Yeah.
But anyway, I just want to tell you I'm proud of you.
Awesome.
And I mean it. And thanks for being so awesome with us all the time. We appreciate it. And then we can see how passionate you are with everything you're doing. And I'm sure you're going to be sticking around for a long time.
Oh, I appreciate what you guys do and talking about prospects. It's always fun to catch up.
It's a blast. Wills, thanks you for coming
on.
Yeah,
you bet, guys.
Go check out the rest of our interviews over on our YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.